Yay! Thanks for everybody's patience. We're learning and growing daily, as all of you should as well. So thank you for tuning in, everyone. I am Renee. My last name is pronounced Kishi. We were actually laughing at some names earlier. I am Renee in LA, your SoCal gal. I've been a residential real estate agent now for 18 years. And as I jokingly say, we like to age backwards here in LA. I haven't had any nip tucks yet, but I'm not afraid of it. So listen, I have on the stage the beautiful, gorgeous, kind Miss Corianne Wright, who is one of my favorite other real estate agents. And Corianne, let us know you are not in my market. You're in Colorado.
I rock and roll Colorado all day. For the most part, I'm an investment-friendly, focused agent, but I will also help the traditional buyers and sellers up here in the mountains if you're going after a homestead.
Oh my gosh. And you guys absolutely join us on Instagram because, man, Corianne's photos that she posts are just lovely. You know, I live in the middle of Hollywood. You know, think what you will. There might be a tangerine tree and a burnout car on the same block. We don't know. But Corianne's pictures are gorgeous. But lest we not forget our fabulous, fabulous guest in here and today, Mandisa Barnett, who and Pad Split, I will let her tell you what it is, but it's not new, but it's kind of like the new kid on the block for a lot of investors as a way to, frankly, make more money out of your investment if you're open to what Pad Split is. And of course, we'll talk about that. And just so you guys don't forget, you know, Corianne and I are here as Ask the Agent Anything because we want to bring you guys value. What we've noticed is that the agents and the investors are not always talking to each other. They're kind of like, you know, not sure if who wants to be friends on the playground yet. And so there's a lot of misconception and we're out to correct that. But you got to educate yourself on what the investors are doing. And part of that starts here with this conversation. So, Mandisa, introduce yourself. Let us know who you are and take it away.
Oh, thank you guys so much for having me. First and foremost, I am Mandisa Barnett. I work for a company called Pad Split, and I truly think that it's amazing on both sides. You do well for yourself as an investor, and you do good for your community. It's basically a rooming house, but I'm sure we'll get more into that later. But that's who I am. I'm out of Las Vegas right now. It's getting crazy hot, so I'm very jealous of you, Corianne, in your nice weather.
Still in long sleeves and it's freezing here. So yesterday I was out in a tank top because we hit 55.
I saw that. That's our low. I always joke with Corianne and say, you know, California's taxes are so high. So I jokingly say I pay weather tax to live here because it's like mama bear weather all the time. Although it's very overcast today. Poor me, you know, play that violin, that weather violin, right?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So how, Mandisa, just tell everybody a little bit about who you are and how did you end up here? Do you have a real estate background? Do you have your license? Share a little bit about kind of your journey of how you got here, and then we can talk more about the product.
Of course. So I have always been in sales, and one of the things that salespeople do is they burn out. So what I did was I was like, hey, I have this bachelor's degree in marketing. Let me go put it to use. And I found a company. It was focused with real estate. It's called LinkU. And so it helped real estate agents basically keep their sphere of influence, their people, top of mind for their people, I should say. I had the pleasure of meeting this phenomenal broker down in Georgia, and he goes, I think you would be really great as an account executive. And I'm like, I have no idea what that is. He said for a wholesale mortgage thing. I'm like, you can wholesale mortgages. And so he's just telling me, and he's like, look, go apply at these 5 companies. I promise you'll get hired. You'll love it. So I fell in love with loans at that point. I worked for SunWest Mortgage. I was there during COVID, during like the whole refi boom. It was just invigorating. I met some amazing people who I still talk to today. And so I just fell in love with real estate, and I realized how attainable it was, and how if you just plan correctly, people who are my age, people who look like me, they can attain a house. They just need to have the right steps and the right people in their path. And so that was like just everything to me. COVID came and went. My grandfather, unfortunately, he died. So I'm like, you know, I'm going to leave California. I'm going to do something different than anything I'd ever done. I moved all the way to Vegas, which is only 4 hours away, but still, it was the first big girl thing I did. Once I did that, I realized you need a license for everything in Vegas, which I did not have. And it being COVID, it was taking a long time. I found the company Pad Split and I was like, oh my gosh, this seems to me like everything that I want to do. It's helping people attain housing. And I thought it was like buying your own house. It was not. It was totally different. But when I learned about the company, the values, the everything, it was the first company I left LinkedIn to go to their site to actually apply to. And I told my sister, I want this job. I want this job so badly. And I got it and I'm here and I fell in love, and it's just been some of the best 2 years of my entire life working here, working with these people, getting to meet people like you, Renee, like you, Corianne. That's been my journey, and it's only up from here. Best year yet, part 2. It's what me and my partners like to say.
That's amazing. I mean, what I heard you just share, and thank you for such an authentic share. It's interesting because, well, 1 second about myself. Like when I was growing up, if you said the word entrepreneur, you were almost a loser. Like, what is that? Right. And like, you can't get to college, because I'm a Gen Xer, right? So the next step from my parents' messaging was go to college. And to a degree, that was the next step. There wasn't a lot of this. There was no internet. There was, not a lot of marketing in this way. And so people just went off and got the job that maybe paid the bills. It didn't necessarily satisfy the passion. And so listening to someone who effectively has a W-2, I mean, whatever you're, incentivized at, but essentially you're working for somebody. And in today's conversation, it's all about the entrepreneur. It's like the opposite. Nobody really wants to work with or for anybody. And so just to hear you say the best 2 years of your life, I just want to acknowledge that. I just want to congratulate you that you found something that makes your heart sing. You most likely, have a paycheck like every 2 weeks kind of thing, which, listen, entrepreneurship is open to everybody, and it's not for everyone, because a lot of people would rather have a job where they can go and kind of get the, paycheck, but their soul is still starving. It's not in it. So just kudos to you. And that you were able to parlay it. Go ahead. Yeah, Corianne.
And that resonates because this is Mandisa and my first time meeting, but your name has circulated around my head and sphere multiple times, because Renee and I met each other at Astro. And Astro, for anybody that's watching and wants to be a part of that community, it's a really incredible wholesaling community where you can learn about the investment side. And we really plugged in, and that's how we met each other. So you were already connected to Jamil Damji, the one that was overseeing that. And he brought you into our community and was like, you got to know this Mandisa person. She's teaching me a way to approach my properties differently in this pad split method. And so it's an honor for me to meet you, because that enthusiasm that you have for the last 2 years in this company and in this method of investing has resonated beyond you even showing up in a room. Other people are talking about how exciting that method is and how you are teaching it. So we're just really excited to have you here and teach our audience more about what this pad split means and how they can utilize it.
Yeah, let's kind of get into it. I do want to set it up a little bit though, because I'd like to just share something that I'm starting to hear. So on a day-to-day, I am an agent, as I mentioned, and I actually prospect other agents. So I'm not necessarily direct to seller in terms of obtaining properties. So for those of you who are listening out there that don't quite know what, prospecting is, well, you kind of, I hate to say this analogy, but it is kind of like you eat what you kill, right? So in sales, and Mandisa, you can, qualify this, especially in 100% commission, especially in a fairly industry that is competitive, like, real estate, that you got to really be creative. And so I started prospecting the agents because I figured, well, you know what, we have something to talk about. Like, I've got their back, they have mine. And I'm noticing that somewhere in maybe the last 5 years, if you say the word investor, it's synonymous with a fix and flip.
Yep.
That is, so again, I may be saying something obvious here, but I just want to set this up for, the audience, that is one exit strategy. There is a plethora of opportunities for an investor. And so even if you are technically, well, it wouldn't be necessarily a fix and flip, but say a buy and hold, you are upgrading on a property and you're looking at a property that needs help. Maybe it's just a light fixer. Maybe it's modern. I call it modernizing, so it's livable. Maybe it's one up from grandma's house, but it's definitely not a hoarder house, right? And you are standing there with your agent, let's say, as an investor, because the agent has found the house and you're strategizing, what am I going to do with this property? anybody who's investing in anything, whether it's art, whether it's real estate, how can I maximize, my equity in this acquisition? That's what you're really thinking. Whether it's a fix and flip and it's a short amount of time, or it's a buy and hold, you're going to write up the equity. And this is why something like the pad split is so interesting, because let's go all the way back and paint that scenario. Okay, I've called the agent, maybe the agent's called me, and I have the investor buyer, right? So the agent's now pitching me this home. Me as the agent, who's an investor-friendly agent, I'm thinking to myself, when I look at this property, who is this for? I'm essentially a matchmaker. Who is the client that would want to be obtaining this opportunity, this house? Let's call it a single family home, right? So I want to emphasize, because the agents that are listening out there that go, yeah, I have my investors. Most of them, I bet 9.5 times out of 10 are flippers. And the flippers may or may not, correct me wrong, Mandisa, when you follow up with what I'm going to say, may or may not want to do this because they are in it for the quick buck. Although some of them are going to buy and hold. They might do 4 fix and flips and 1 hold, right, for their own portfolio. So what the heck are you doing with the house that essentially you're buying and holding, or maybe going to fix and flip and think that you're going to sell it to another investor who does want a buy and hold investor, right? They don't have the time to do all the dirty work, take it back to the studs. So I would love to hear that about more. Let's talk about the product. And then I'd love to hear if you know what your clients are actually doing with this product, because that's really going to educate our listener, who more than likely is the agent.
Okay. The rainbow, to sum that up, is, what is pad split? Question mark.
Yeah. So we got to start all the way in the back. I know I asked a very advanced question, but I want to include that in there, because what I don't want this, or Corey and I don't want this to be, is just some kind of educational moment that doesn't have an actionable next step. And that actionable next step may be, hey, if I'm the investor listening and I'm the wholesaler and the investor listening, maybe I wasn't privy to what this potential exit strategy is for my buy and holds. And if you're the agent listening, this is yet another opportunity to have a unique selling proposition to say, hey, investor client, or maybe even if it's a regular client who just wants one house as a cash flow and they can't cash flow it. You and I both know, you're from California. California is not really a cash flow state unless maybe you buy a fix and flip. So if you want to be here, you want to be in the sunshine, this might be a nice alternative. You don't want to buy out of state. That's not your wheelhouse. So please speak to all of that, in some of these states that maybe are blue states or whatever, those kind of things as well. Anyway, go for it.
Of course. I'm so glad that you guys asked these questions, because Pad Split is, to me, it's a phenomenal company. Our founder, Atticus LeBlanc, he started doing this about 18 years ago, even though we're 5 years old. He found a house that was right next door to him that was already a pad split, basically. So a pad split is a house that is just renting out the rooms. So Pad Split, the company, was like, hey, this is a great concept. Let's maximize on this. So instead of putting people who are friends, instead of putting college students, instead of doing any of that, let's just put a bunch of strangers, the working class, who need to be near where they live, play, work in the area, and they're just priced out. Let's maximize on this space. So you're taking a single family house. It's going to be 3-2, 4-3, and you're going to take out the living room. You're going to take out the den. You're going to take out the office. And so that 3-2 turns into a 7-3, 7-2, right? And we're putting individuals who are working inside of this asset. So across the board, your investors who you're pitching this exit strategy to, they're able to make $800 for every single room in that house. That's great for them, right? Because most people are breaking even maybe $200 they're getting from a standard single family rental. But on the other side of it, the investor is able to do well for the community. How many investors are actually housing 8 individuals who are contributing to society? Like, the people, we are truly workforce housing. And that's what just makes me so happy about this. It makes me go, I like this. And I really, really like this, because the butcher across the street from my house, I live across the street from Albertsons, he's like, hey, you're wearing a Pad Split shirt. I live at a Pad Split. And I'm like, I love that. He's like, I can't afford, there's a weekly hotel like a little bit down the street from the Albertsons. He can't afford that now. He's priced out of the market. So there's that human aspect that you're actually doing something really, really good for your community. And then there's also for our investors who just, what are you going to do with this house? These interest rates are crazy. There's no hard money loan that you're going to be able to just keep floating to make some type of money on anything. So with a pad split, you're more than 2 to 3xing what you would get with a single family home, and you can just rinse and repeat. This is like the Burr method on steroids, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's what I'm hearing. Yeah.
That's what pad split is. It's just a single family home, and you're just creating multifamily income inside of it. That's the easiest way to explain it. And then for go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, you just kind of blew my mind, because when I think of pad split, I think bathrooms have to be equal to bedrooms. But in most pad splits, you're saying like 7-2. So it's kind of a shared bathroom situation, and then they're renting out the room.
Exactly. So there is some shared space. You guys are coming from astro flipping, and let me tell you, Mr. Damji himself and his sister Rahima are phenomenal people, and they created just a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful home in Phoenix. It has more bathrooms than I have in my house, and it's phenomenal. But that is not the norm, right? My norm, and what I'm telling all of my investors is, a bathroom is an expensive thing to put into your house. So if that blows your budget, I want you to do a three bedrooms to 1 bathroom ratio, and that's fine, perfectly fine. And people don't mind sharing that amount of amenities, and they're also sharing the kitchen, so it's good.
Okay. 3-to-1 ratio actually answers Nick's question in the comments. He was like, "What about a 4-to-1?" So 3-to-1 is nice.
4-to-1 is our standard, but I like to make sure, like, okay, so I think pad split is phenomenal. We're in a good market or a bad market, there's always going to be a need for affordable housing. We can all agree on that, right? So when you're working with me, I want to make sure that you 100% are going to outlive your competitors who come into this. So in Atlanta, we have over 5,000 units, and there's literal pad split neighborhoods at this point. So what is going to make someone stay at my house versus your house? So we have the standards that you have to use in order to put your house on the platform. 80 square feet, right? 80 square feet. You need 2 modes of egress, so a door and a window to the outside, and then the 4-to-1 bathroom ratio. But if I have a 4-to-1 bathroom ratio, smaller rooms, what is going to make you stay at my house at the same price point that Renee's house is, with 10 by 12 rooms and 3-to-1 bathrooms and multiple refrigerators? So I just like people to think of the long term when they're going into this. Like, you asked a really great question, Renee. What can people build basically a business out of this? Like, people who are flippers, who have that flipper mentality, this is perfect for them, because you're going to get the asset. You're going to look at assets you'd never look at any other time. Like, you guys are real estate agents or realtors. And so you're advising your clients like, hey, this is a great neighborhood because of this. Obviously, you can't say that. I apologize.
I hear you. Yeah.
Like, hey, this is, check out the school district, check out this, check out that. For a pad split, you can take a step back and you can go, hey, this is a different type of neighborhood. A family's not going to go here, so schools don't matter. It being a corner house is a plus for me. It's on a busy street next to public transportation. All of these things are pluses, whereas another investor would be like, oh no, I don't, this is not going to work, because who am I going to sell this to? But when you're creating a pad split out of it, you can literally do everything a flipper would do. You can create the house with the additional bedrooms, furnish it, and then now not only are you creating housing for multiple individuals, you have a fully complete asset that's a business that you can now sell to someone else. So your flipping is just plus, and it's amazing.
Oh, I didn't even really think about that one. I was thinking buy and hold investor is going to use it as a pad split, make money off of it, not as if you set it up as a pad split, then you can resell it as a functioning business with tenants in it. Interesting. Can you speak more to what kinds of neighborhoods or activity or things nearby send off the green flag that say this is a pad split?
Of course. So I always, first and foremost, please stay out of HOAs. Pad split is a phenomenal model, but HOA people they're an interesting class of people, and they like what they like, right? They can change rules at a whim. So let's protect ourselves and protect the investment we're putting into this. So HOAs, let's stay out of those. Being near public transportation is always a plus. Half of my members are the people who are going to occupy your house. Half of them have cars, the other half rely on public transportation. So public transportation is a plus. If it's a neighborhood where you know Uber or Lyft is something that everybody just uses, then that's fine, right? So don't discount it, just call me. I also want an economic driver. So an economic driver is not just a large something. If there is a warehouse nearby, anywhere near an airport is always amazing for this type of thing. If you want to think about it and you're like, hey, I have this house and I want to know if the zip code is good, go to Indeed, put in that zip code and put in jobs nearby. And if people are being paid minimum wage to about $20 an hour, you're probably in a pad split neighborhood. We can find 8 people that are going to fill your home and stay there for the long haul because they don't have another option. So that's the type of neighborhood and type of thing that I really want you to look for. And I mean, obviously for your first pad split, hook up with me, hook up with somebody. If you are more comfortable working with somebody who's in your market, we have, I think, 18 people that are just like me now who are just phenomenal. And they all truly believe in, like Joel, he's my manager. And he is just a phenomenal human, and he has built a great team of people who truly believe in this. And so we have someone in every single one of our core markets who can help guide you in making this decision. So I think one of the best things about pad split and one of the best things about me is I will walk your property if you're in one of my core markets. I will, my GMs will help you find a contractor. Your success is our success. And so we're just totally different than other companies who are like, hey, put it on, see what it does. No. I want you to win desperately when it comes to this.
And when do most people reach out to you? Can they reach out to you as they're about to purchase a property, or is it after they've purchased it and they're the owner?
Either way, my dream scenario is you hear about this and you reach out and you're like, hey, I like this. Can you give me just a little more detailed information? I'm interested in this specific market. What should I look for? I can't give you zip codes. I can't say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 is the best zip code to go into because we don't have that. I just know where you shouldn't go. So I want you to interact with me prior to you purchasing. I want to know the houses that you're looking at. I want to know the price point that you're looking at because I have worked with so many investors now and the company has been around for 5 years. We know the mistakes you should not make. So I don't want you to make a very, very costly mistake. So just call me, call Pad Split before you're purchasing, run the houses by us and see if it's going to work. I can't give you a silver, just magic thing, but I can guide you and I can hope that we're doing the best thing possible.
And the fact that you're willing to do that before I even own the property is huge. That's amazing that you're willing to look at it and kind of help me decide whether or not that's the right exit strategy if I do pick up the property. That's so freaking cool. Wow. Guys, stick around because we will be sharing all of Mandisa's contact information, every bit that she's allowing us and willing to share so that she can work with you and you can get a hold of her and all that fun stuff. But we're not going to share till the end because we're picking her brain for the next rest of the hour.
All right.
Renee, I have a tendency, and I could possibly do this for the rest of the hour, come with all these little detail questions because this is new. But that's why Renee and I are always together because she pulls back and she's like, let's go back to the big picture here as I'm going, but what about all of these little
I know, that's brilliant. That's why we're partners.
Stop me before I go crazy, Renee.
Well, something that came to mind, and I'm always a proponent that people are listening freely, so that they don't have a question, not a question like, oh, I have an inspiring question, but what is she talking about? What is she saying? Because one of the things that you're talking about is, my clients and the product. So just before we go on to the minutia of the questions, let's get that elephant out of the way. So it's not a membership, but I'm going to kind of call it that because people might be like, wait, what? Most people I think are, it's in America, we buy something and then we get something, we're not used to sort of memberships. That's kind of a new thing, that's hit the scene maybe in the last couple of years or so, concierge and memberships and all of that. So say a little bit more about what pad split is. Like, you can even use myself or Corianne as the example, that I'm the investor, I'm calling you, I'm saying I'm looking at, 123 Main Street in this area, and you go, yay, thumbs up. Oh my goodness, this is just cracking me up. I'm the one that gets it every time.
I know.
What do I do next, and what is this going to cost me? Because I'm not just calling you to pick your brain for free to tell me, yay, this is a great neighborhood.
That is true. Okay, so I do want to just go back just a small bit, because Pad Split the company, so I'll use you, Renee, as an example. If you came to me, you would come to me from the host perspective, and then the tenants, or the people we're putting in your property, they are called the members. So when I do use those words, that's why, that is why, when you call me, it's a free call, right? The information is free. When you put your house on the platform, Pad Split makes money when you make money. So, and please let me know if I'm saying this and it's not understood well. I'm happy to elaborate. This is a new thing for me. It just started on May 1st. So with that preface, I will attempt. So the first 10 days of the member's initial stay goes to Pad Split, and then it's 8% of any revenue collected after that. So there's no cost for listing a room. There's no cost. There's no upfront cost outside of the first 10 days. We have changed our fee model from the original 15%. And so in the long run, this is much better for you, the investor.
Yeah. So let's just stop for a second. So you were saying somewhere in what you just said, maybe an average. Let's just go averages. I don't want to get down a rabbit hole. Okay. But averages is somebody paying about $800 a month for a room rental. Okay. Mm-hmm. That may or may not have a bathroom. It's probably a little bit more if it has an ensuite bathroom, but we're just going to go $800. Got it. So stop me if I'm wrong here. So if it's $800 for the room, you said the first, how many days? I'm sorry.
10 days.
10 days. Okay. Got it. Yeah. 10. So 800, divided by 30, because that's the average number of days in a month. Even when you take the real estate license exam, it's always 30 days, right? So 800 divided by 30 is 2666 per day times 10, right? So I'm digging into my pocket for 200, and we'll round it up on the cents, $267 per month goes to Pad Split.
No. So it's just the first 10 initial days. So if you brought me a house today and you're like, hey, we'll list June 1st. If Mandisa moved into your house June 1st through 10th, that goes to Pad Split. Until I move out, you are only charged 8%. So you're not charged that 10 days every month.
I got it. Okay, good. I'm glad I clarified that. So ultimately it's in this instance at the $800 per room. So however many rooms you have in the house, I'm just saying it per room, for one room for the example, guys, that it's $80 basically per room or per door within the room. Are you calling it door? Because we call it doors in terms of house, but rooms?
It's interchangeable. For the member side, for the people, the tenants, we call them rooms. For investors, we do call them doors.
Got it. Okay. So we'll stick with the investor. And that does sound a little nicer.
Yeah.
You don't want to be a number, but in essence, you are a number to somebody who's owning an investment property. That's why we call them doors, not houses or condos or anything super sweet. So you're paying $80 in this instance. If it's $800 a month per rent, it's $80 per door. And that's and then you make there's got to be water and everything else like costs, but you're essentially walking away with $720 a month minus expenses. Or do you put the expense? Do the people pay the expenses? Is it all inclusive, or they pay the gas, water, electric, all that?
It is all inclusive. And we found that because we're going after this specific demographic that makes between $30,000 and $80,000 a year, having one bill totally helps absolutely everything. So we have a 97% collection rate, and that's because we break it down. We allow them to pay based on their pay periods. We allow them to only have one bill to pay for. So that's why we do it that way.
Okay.
I love this. Okay. The reason I'm about to get hyped is because in Ask an Agent Anything, Renee and I are always working on creating the bridge so that investors and agents are talking more so that they can elevate easier. It sounds like Pad Split is doing the same for the investor and the person that needs housing so that we can actually create a need that is out there, because obviously there's a housing crisis. Like, we don't have to go down that rabbit hole, but in a lot of ways, this is allowing investors to create opportunity for those people that are 30 to 80,000 in income annually that just need a room so that they can keep working, so that they can move themselves up the ladder. Am I understanding correctly?
110%. Yes, we have so many benefits with you coming to a pad split. If you're on the member side, right, you are somebody who just can't afford something otherwise, but you're able to improve your, I think the statistic is about 75% of our people don't have a credit score that would qualify. By the time they leave a pad split, they can qualify for their own apartment. They are able to save money. We have a pipeline. We have 54 people, I believe it's 54 people, who have gone from a pad split to being an owner of a pad split or an owner of a home. And so there's so many benefits to them. And that's why they come here and they love this membership.
How great is that? It has like almost a philanthropic component to it. I don't know if it's exactly that, but in essence of philanthropy to it. I mean, what a great story. Somebody was in a pad split and now they own the home. They own the pad split, right? So that's got to feel good. You don't, for those of us who are investors, that sometimes investing can feel icky. Sometimes it's a lot of type A personalities. It doesn't necessarily always have the human touch to it. Maybe this is the female side of me talking, but I care, right? Like, it's not just doors and it's not just bottom line, you are running a business with these things. And this is giving you an opportunity to where you have the support in the background. So you're not like buying into a franchise and you got to deal with all that, but you have the support in the background. And that's what the percentage is, or the 10%, right? So that pays for all you guys to be around on a monthly basis. Yeah.
But more than that. So Atticus, the founder, he actually changed the fee structure. And at first it was just like, I've always been preaching to everybody, we don't do any upfront anything, right? And the change, I was on maternity leave when it kind of came about, and I was just, I don't know about this. And then I sat down and I asked Atticus, the founder, and I was like, hey, I have an investor who just has some questions. This is the CEO of the company. And I'm like, I have this investor who has some questions. Can you talk to him, please? And he said, yeah, no problem. Put it on my calendar. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's cool. So I do, and I listened to why he changed it. And it was so that we can help you. We can help the investor. We can put more marketing dollars up front. We can get your house filled quicker. We can do all of these things. And essentially, you make more money. We were able to shift the credit card processing fee, which made it from 12% to 15% over to the member side with just no irritation there. And so went from this just really, I don't know about this. And I'm for the first time feeling a little icky about this to, oh my gosh, like I love this fee model now. It was amazing. And just seeing all the things we were able to do, bus stop ads, and just how quickly rooms are getting filled now. It's just phenomenal.
And, I was listening to it. I don't want to go detract too much, but I want to bring this into the investor side of things, is that, one of the reasons to own real estate is to offset taxes. And so this is a way that basically providing housing, and not just the ones and twosies, right? You're not just buying a house kind of a like for like, okay, I'll put a small family into this house. They're going to pay this rent, and inevitably they're going to be there between 2 and 5 years. I mean, people just like moving, if you're anything like me, and I don't even hardly own anything and I don't like moving, right? So imagine a big house and kids, and it's a production and it's costly. So in this instance, you're not having people move. And I mean, whatever, when they're getting ready to move up, but you always have somebody in the room, most likely in your house, right? And then you're providing housing, which from a tax standpoint, the government can't really come after you. They're not hip on a lot of what the investors are doing with all this creative stuff that they end up doing. They don't like it a lot. Now, I'm not a tax accountant or a tax strategist, but I know that there's a lot of red flags and people sitting on the benches waiting to pounce on investors. Like, what are you not paying? But if you have this kind of like wholesome, hey, there's a housing crisis in this country, and I'm the one going in these neighborhoods, doing this and helping people, I doubt that you're going to be on the hot list to get audited with all your investments. So that's kind of in a roundabout way. We should probably have an accountant on here to talk about that. But have you seen that? Have you seen anything of that ilk, what I just described? And has this been a better exit? Yeah.
Like, just think of higher net worth individuals. I'll talk about my sister and my blood sister, and then my brother-in-law, her husband. Their accountant at the end of the year, because he works for Amazon, he's like a VP of something, and then she works for Stripe, the credit card processing, and she manages the managers. They make a ton of money, probably $350,000 a year combined, right? And their tax guy was like, you guys need to buy like 3 houses in order to be in a halfway good place at the end of this. And so that's what they did. They bought 3 investment properties. And so with that knowledge, I was like, hey, there's a lane here. There's an avenue for me to partner with real estate agents and CPAs to find other people in the same situation, because there's a huge tax burden on people who are making higher income. And so, yes, this is absolutely one of the best ways to do it. And being in communities like Sub2 and Astro Flipping, you learn so much. Like, you don't need to keep all of your money in these deals. You can take it out. And it's just a phenomenal way to build generational wealth and to leave some sort of legacy and do some good while you're here. And so all of that just feels phenomenal to me. And so I think, yes, you hit the nail right on the head, because that's all, like, I saw that initially and everybody's like, no, it's going to take too long. And I'm like, no, we need to work with real estate agents because they know who the people are that have bought a house and they're refining, and now they have funds to do something like this. And those people are typically in a space where they need to do something like this for tax benefits.
Yeah.
You hit it right on the head.
Well, thank you. And I'm reiterating again that, guys, who, you are the agents out there, whether you're just starting or a seasoned agent. I've been doing this for 18 years. I've seen the market shifting. The American dream, so to speak, isn't really the American dream anymore, because some people just can't sink and afford it. And then there's not even that many options, right? I mean, I've had my license now for 18 years. I've always been in the conversation with real estate, and just in Los Angeles alone, I mean, there's never not been multiple offers. If there isn't multiple offers, we all know that it's either overpriced or there's something conditionally odd about it. It's right next to the freeway. There's 75 steps to the front door. It's up a 90-degree angle. I mean, it's stuff that people don't really want, that eventually it'll sell, but that's the reason why there's not multiple offers on it. But for everything else, welcome to our generation. Okay. It's not my mom's generation where you could buy a house on one salary. So anyway, what are we doing out here is, I think we've got to get creative, not only for our clients, but also, ourselves. Like, how are we packaging what we're talking about? Because I assert that it's not necessarily just the buyer buying something, meaning like maybe they need to buy something not just for tax purposes, but maybe they're going to live in their own pad split, and kind of suck it up and be the one that's not owning a duplex, but living in the room until they can, buy another house to go live in it by yourself with a family. This is not a bad idea if you're a single person, or maybe you're in your 20s and you're single and you can't afford the neighborhood you live in, but that's where, like LA is very expensive. People can't necessarily afford to live here, but maybe their families are here. They don't want to go move to another state that's more affordable because their life is here. So maybe this is a way to go about it. Anyway, anything to say about that kind of like thought mentality? I'm trying to sort of pick your brain too about how do I know enough after this call? And maybe it's going to be that I get to call you, but as an agent, because I don't want to ping your brain too much, but how can I take what this is and really bring it to the conversation? Because it's a new conversation. It's a brand new, it's going to blow people's minds. Like, wait, what? What are you telling me?
Pad split is new, but the need is not. Like, if you watch an hour of TV right now, you're going to see an Airbnb commercial that's out there telling old families to turn their kids' like house and room into something that they can rent out. Like, people are trying to think creatively about housing, so much so that it's showing up on our commercials.
Yeah.
And in a lot of ways, I see this as being sort of the solve in a lot of ways. So yes, a moment to just respond to our enthusiasm and blathering.
I know.
And then we also have some great questions in the comments, so I'm going to pull them up after we give you a moment to respond.
I am so sorry. My brain just went like this because I love your guys' energy. And then I briefly glanced at the chat and I realized that Natasha is here. And I love her so much. So if you could just repeat the question once more, I'm so sorry. I just love her so much.
Me too, if you can't tell. Moment of love out there for Natasha. And honestly,
Yeah.
her question aligns perfectly with where we're headed in regards to if I have an Airbnb, if I'm talking, I'm an agent, I'm talking to somebody who's considering what do I turn my home into? I'm considering Airbnb, but I've never heard of Pad Split. Tell us a little bit about differences, and then how would I go about turning something that maybe was an Airbnb now into a Pad Split? Pros and cons.
Good question.
So I have a ton of people. I'm in Vegas. So if you guys don't know, in Vegas, you need a license now for an Airbnb, and there's a bunch of just weird little, not weird. There's rules, right? Which is great for some investors, but it's not great for all. So if you wanted to turn your home into an Airbnb, we need to strongly take a look at if that's the best option for you. Typically, when you're buying an Airbnb property, you guys can attest to this, it's going to be in a desirable type of neighborhood because people are coming in for an experience. There are some times where that's not the case, right? And if it's not the case and you're within our, I want to say buy box, but I use that term loosely, where you're not in an HOA, it's not in a super crazy neighborhood where it's going to be a pad split's going to be a stressor. Yeah, all day, let's do it. You can even put it on as is if you're bleeding and you just want to cover your mortgage. You just want to cover, any of your expenses right now. So we're always happy to take a look at it, but I'm also always happy to introduce you to beautiful agents like you two and go, hey, let's 1031 this sucker and get you into a perfect pad split. Because the last thing that I ever want to do, when people, you can ask any of the Astro guys or any of the sub 2 guys, and they'll tell you, Mandisa says no a lot. And it's not me saying no. It's, I'm just like, I would take every house if I could because there's such a need, but I don't ever want to put somebody in a bad position. So I truly, 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 truly just want, if you're putting an asset on, we're not disturbing the HOA. We're not disturbing the neighborhood. We're not doing that. We can always find amazing agents like you guys who get this, who work with investors, who understand, this concept, and we can 1031 it and they can find you something quick. And we can do that. So those are my pros and cons, really. Like, if your Airbnb is outside of an HOA, if your Airbnb is in a neighborhood that's maybe, I don't know, close to a Boost mobile store or you're the least desirable grocery store in your city or town, okay, maybe this will work. If there is motels around your Airbnb, cool. If the Bellagio is across the street from your Airbnb, I'm going to say no to that. Introduce you to an agent. We're going to find you a finance partner, and we're going to go from that point. But it's not impossible. It's not impossible. I've done it several times. Matter of fact, my first house that I put on as a pad split, not my personal first house, but the first host that I worked with, he was an Airbnb guy, and he was just like, hey, this isn't working. I'm making like $1,000 a month. I have 3 rooms. And I'm like, cool. I can get you $800 a month for each of these rooms. He said, great. And then he added 2 more rooms because it was that phenomenal. And then he added 6 more houses within a year. So it works when it works.
Wow. And that's the part that, as investors, guys, beggars can't be choosers. Sometimes you're going to need to do what you need to do. You started out in Airbnb and now you found out about pad split, and maybe this is the right option, and you're not going to, lose out from under it. Because one thing I've noticed is that, especially with Pace and Jamil, that this investor game has almost gotten younger and younger. There's a lot of younger by aged people. And listen, I was, 20 something too once, and you're full of, just excitement, and you want to do everything all the time. And there's a fear of missing out. So what I heard by no being a complete sentence is you must have some clarity on what the actual exit strategy is that you're doing. And if for some reason that doesn't work, to be able to be humble enough to pivot so that you can still be in the game and you don't lose money at the game. That's why just considering yourself being a fix and flipper, I assert is from a lot of these television shows, because there's so many other exit strategies people don't talk about, and it's sexy, and you're doing right by the community because you've taken that house, a dirty old house, and you turned it into something new. But my goodness, I mean, fixing and flipping is such an inherent risk that actually it's one that I'm not a fan of. You really gotta, got to be able to put your head on the pillow at night. You've got to make sure that people are in alignment. And this isn't so much that. Hold on one second, Corianne, because I want to make sure that Mandisa answers this, because guys, I'm curious, Mandisa, too, is there anybody that you've talked to from almost playing armchair psychologist? Is there anybody that you've talked to that said, okay, everything makes sense on paper, but are people really going to want to share bathrooms? Are people really going to want to live together in a room? It almost has a stigma, like a HUD housing, right? Like, ooh, HUD housing has this stigma, like it's, people are just crazy. And the reality is that you've got, basically your rent paid by the government. It's not what it used to be. So can you shed light on that too? But Corianne, I want you to ask your question, because I have a little bit of that in my background. I'm like, damn, I'm like 50 something and I want to go live in a room with 7 other people. But shed light on that, because it sounds like it's working.
I have a video on my phone of Pace Morby kicking a door down for a house that he was thinking about. It was a duplex, that he was thinking about doing for pad split. And he turns to me after he kicks the door and he goes, Mandisa, do people actually live like this? And I said,
see,
yes, they do. One of the things that I learned about pad split is the resilience of people. So there is a lady here, North Las Vegas. Her name is Joanne. She is phenomenal. She's in one of my favorite investors' houses. And she's like, I had this amazing life where I'm from, and I just had to get away from there. I needed a change, but I also wanted the flexibility of being able to leave if I had to. She had a situation with a gentleman whose kids didn't like her. She's not an older woman. She's just a couple years older than me. She's like 50 something, right? And his older kids did not like her. And she's like, fine, I'll move to Vegas. I have this phenomenal job opportunity. I'm going to live there. And she did. And I talked to her still to this day. Like we still talk. She still lives in that same pad split room. She shares the bathroom with multiple other people. She welcomes everybody who comes in with open arms. Then there is the investor who brought us here, and he has several houses. He does not believe in private bathrooms. He does not believe in putting TVs inside of the rooms, which I'm like, that's certainly a choice, but okay, do what you do. And so he has a bunch of divorced guys, and I've talked to the divorced guys, and they're just like, hey, we're just rebuilding. We just need a space where we can save money and we can do this. I have a house full of Amazon workers, a house full of teachers. People actually do this because I think it's such a fortunate thing that we're able to say, like me personally, I have children, so I can't do a pad split because I have kids and they don't allow kids. But take my kids out of it for just 2 seconds. If it was just me having the same job that I have right now, would I live in a pad split? No. I would never have to make the choice to do this. But am I very just happy that the pad splits that are on the market right now, they're safe, clean, and affordable, and it's a safe and nice place to live for somebody? Yes. So it's like taking yourself out of it as like a real estate agent, as an investor, and somebody like interested in this, like we're never going to have to make this choice. We'd never like go to France and be at a hostel. We're going to the hotels or doing all that type of stuff. But for people who are priced out of this market and they're making barely over minimum wage, what other option do they have?
Yeah.
I'm glad we're walking down this path. It's one of the harder ones to talk about, but I do think it's one of the first things that is going to pop into people's brain is, okay, so investors, instead of renting out the house affordably to the right people, they are instead splitting it up to make more money on individuals in each room. I think that would be the negative statement coming from somebody who doesn't understand this. The thing that you said 20 minutes ago that for me was like almost a salve, where I was like, oh, opportunity, is for people who can't go get a rental, any kind of rental because they're not in the right place of their credit. And again, this is system stuff. Like maybe their parents didn't teach them about credit. Maybe the system threw them off because they signed the wrong document on the wrong day. But those kinds of things happen in our lives that bring us a little bit lower down on the mountain. It doesn't mean that we can't work our way up higher on the mountain, but when you're in that situation and you can't qualify for a rental, and this is going to help build your credit until the point that you can, how freaking cool is that? Because much rather that with a roof over your head and a bathroom you can access than a tent. And we've seen our communities and people have to turn that direction as well.
Unfortunately, yes.
Yeah. With that, how are you guys? We're a little bit on time, so I want to be mindful. Quickly, how are you guys doing that with credits? And so you said safe, clean, affordable. That's another thing I'm sure that's on people's mind, especially as an investor. You don't want to, I hate to say it like this, but you don't want to deal with the riffraff. Most investors just want to kind of have their hand out, give me my check every month, and like a property manager, somebody else take care of it. Is that kind of what you guys are doing? How does it work if somebody has a mental issue, like all of those minutia things? How is that you guys handle that?
That's a great question. So Pad Split, the company, we are the people who do anything that you can remotely. So we will find the people, screen the people, and collect the rent. We have a back-end dashboard that is the wall between you and the tenants or members, which we call them. So anything that they have to say, they report it to that dashboard. They don't call you directly unless you give them your phone number, obviously. We screen, we use LexisNexis, we do an employment check, we underwrite through something else. I don't know what it's called right now. I'm so sorry, but it like goes into their bank account and sees what they're bringing in, what's going out, and it gives them a credit limit. So like, if I have rooms on my house and there's a room for $100, but Renee, you only qualified for $110, you can only see my rooms for $100 or $110 and below. And then Corianne, you were able to qualify for $200, so you can see all of my rooms because that's the highest room that I have. So we really set them up for success. We even are partnered with, what is it called? Isuzu. It's a Serena Williams backed startup that gives micro loans. So if they ran into hard times because they're an Uber driver and they needed a tire or whatever else. So we don't have riffraff. We are truly, truly workforce housing. All of these people have to be employed. They have to be able to pay for the place that they're staying in. They have to be bringing in an income. However, I cannot background check for mental health, and I do not want to discredit, mental health and what it is, but we're just not set up to take on something like that. So when something like that happens, the best, I think this is the one thing that no one understands about a pad split. You brought it up a little bit earlier. Most investors, Renee, they buy a home, right? And then they just throw a family in there. If they throw a family in there and then that family members, they lose their job or they destroy your place, you're in a really bad position as an investor for a little while, right?
That's one of one. Yeah.
With Pad Split, you have 7 different rooms. If I'm just a really bad person, guess what? You have 6 different rooms that you're still making money on. And in most places, it's a weekly type rental. So everything is just a lot easier to get them out of there if that's what it comes to. But we still do have a less than 3% eviction rate across all markets with over 1,100 rooms. So, we're in a really good place. So I just think that with the question that you asked about the riffraff, you have to prove that you're able to be here, but I still can't background check for a mental illness, unfortunately.
It's still support that you don't get in a lot of other methods of exit, is that you're screening, that you're creating a wall between me and the tenants, that you're like, all of that is like kind of unheard of in support when you're dealing with a tenancy situation. So dang cool.
That's amazing. And guys, that's the 10%, right? So that's what you're paying for. Like back to, sometimes
10%.
people are looking at the bottom line and it's like, oh, that's just more money out the door. Well, newsflash, it takes money to make money, so something will give. If you don't want the phone call at 2:00 in the morning that my toilet has broken, you're either going to pay, a property manager, or you're going to walk down the path of a pad split. And then behind the scenes, you guys are taking care of that, right? I mean, I'm calling it a property management, but just people know what that is. So you guys are getting those 2:00 in the morning, my toilet's broken calls, and it'll get handled, and the investor's not. That's part of the cost. Is that
it's 8%, but
or
we
8%? Sorry. Yeah.
okay. We don't do, I won't put boots on the ground for your property when it comes to the maintenance because it's still
Okay.
your property. So, but you can put your guys on there or girls because I've met so many phenomenal women plumbers in Vegas. It's insane to go on about them forever. But anyway, you can add people to your dashboard. So you don't truly have to handle it if you don't want to. You can build out a team that handles all of these things for you.
Guys,
I have
we're
so
going to
many more
have to
questions.
continue. I know. We're going to have to continue this conversation because in a lot of ways, this is just like dipping our toes in and letting everybody know, hey, there's a new exit strategy on the block. It's been on the block for 5 years. It's getting more popular and it fills a need that we're seeing in the housing community. So, thank you for being here.
So good.
Thank you for telling our audience what's going on. No doubt we are going to bring you back so that we can even look at a property and talk about it, all sorts of things that I can think that I want to ask and do. Mandisa, you're amazing. I'm going to give you the floor. We're going to get off the stage. What I want from you is tell our community what you need, how they get a hold of you, how they should do it, all that fun stuff. The floor is yours.
You're amazing. Hi, everybody. If you guys have any pad split questions or anything like that, you can always call me 951-232-7787. You can also email me, my first name, Mandisa, at padsplit.com. And if you're an agent and you just want to refer someone in one of our core markets, I can hit you guys up with that later because I don't remember them all right now, but there's about 18 and they put a house on the market that has 5 bedrooms or more. We'll pay you $1,000. So I would just love to connect and work with any of you guys and just give you any resources that I have. You're amazing. Thank you all so much. I love you, Natasha.
Good.
He's the best. Thank you, everybody that came to Ask an Agent Anything. Just a reminder, we are always here at 2 p.m. Mountain Standard Time on Tuesdays. We'd love for you to subscribe and catch us every Tuesday. We have really cool people like Mandisa join us all the time. And of course, you know, Renee and I can blather on about all sorts of topics. That's what we do. Renee, any last parting words before we say goodbye?
I'm so excited. I just say, stay open. Stay open. There's a lot of options and opportunity out here in the real estate umbrella, and Realtor allows you the opportunity to kind of be the hub and the wheel. So please stay open and be of highest and best service to all the people that you come in contact with, not just folks that get the opportunity to actually live the American dream, but other people that really need our services as well.
Amen to that. And without, y'all go kick some butt and we'll see you later.